Welcome to the Extra Mile podcast, episode number 7.
Yes, welcome, folks.
Puria, it's great to see you.
Great to see you again, Tilman. Yeah, I was really missing you. It's been a few weeks, actually, since the last episode. Now we want to do this more frequently. And so I'm very happy we're back here.
Yes, we are back and we have a lot of super interesting themes for today. So I can't wait to dive in. How should we start this time, Puria? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think we can just start with some personal updates. What do you think?
Sounds good.
All right, let's do that. I can maybe start with one anecdote, which was this week I'm like continuing a project which I'm building with a partner, and we're evolving. Currently, it's in a state of private preview with friends and family. And now it's also becoming a product and habit for myself. So, this week I was just at a swimming pool and did my full grocery shopping. So it took me like a few minutes, and then a few hours later everything got delivered to my house door. And this is such a brilliant easing effect now in my day-to-day life, and I'm really looking forward now to give this access to more people. I also saw like you now are also getting into this, and also thanks a lot for your feedback, Tilman. And yeah, so this is something I was working on, and now I'm seeing myself adapting to it, and it feels very natural.
Yeah, it's really amazing when you use your own product yourself. And I have more feedback, by the way. I took a couple of screenshots this morning.
Nice.
And I have a full shopping basket, which I unfortunately will not order this time because I'm going to travel tomorrow. But yeah, I will next time.
Yeah, we need an air delivery for you.
Yeah.
In so many places. At some point we will have the drones.
At some point we will. So Puria, I really look forward to, by the way, further announcements regarding the product that you've been working on now for quite some time already.
Yeah, thank you, Tilman.
Yeah. So speaking of building, something that is really on my heart to share, and I just made a LinkedIn post about it. Yesterday, I changed someone's life, or I could say Codex changed someone's life. And why do I say that? Well, first of all, I got a free haircut. So that was life-changing for me because I didn't get a free haircut for a long time. But in all seriousness, a few weeks ago, my barber, she sent me a voice message and said, Tilman, I have a problem. Can you help me? You mentioned that you can build a website for me as a booking page. I'm paying so much for this provider, and the booking system is so bad. I'm losing time. My schedule doesn't get booked consistently, and I'm losing salary. My customers are not satisfied with the system. What should I do? So I said, look, I'm so busy. I would love to help you. How about I let you build this yourself, and then this is your product. So yesterday night we met. I got a haircut, as you can see. And we used Codex to really first collect product requirements. It built an MVP. Then it continued to build for hours to make this really, really solid. And now she has a very strong product. She's even able to onboard other solopreneurs. And the key difference she wants to make, she doesn't want to charge 90 euro for the system where you can basically just book appointments. She wants to charge something like 20 euro per month, so that all the solopreneurs, barbers, maybe the salary isn't too high. They actually get some useful piece of software for a low price. So this story really touched me. And I'm just thinking, okay, what else is out there? Like, for example, in 2 weeks, we have our next AI community event here in Munich. We will have over 100 people in a Codex session, just building stuff, building something they always wanted to build. And as I like to say, no matter where they are in their journey, there's always inspiration. Just like me, I've been coding since summer last year, very intensively, sometimes until the night. Learned some new patterns that are, again, so fun and so interesting. I will share more about these later in the episode. But what I want to say is this, changing one life, because the way I saw my barber, her eyes were shining. She saw so many possibilities now. She can promote, she can market that product, she can step up. But she's changing a lot of other lives as well. I mean, she's the mother of 2 children. The lessons, the insights, the perspective she gains. But she can change the lives of some other barbers as well. For example, that she wants to encourage to go out of employment and write their own invoices so that they can get financially more independent. So that's a big thing. And honestly, there was Codex, the AI agent, and us. But it was such a beautiful human moment, such a moment of connectedness. So yeah, one of my highlights.
Yeah, I really love this story. So you surprised me with that. So when you wrote it, I was like, "Oh man, that's so cool." It was such a surprise, and I'm also very curious. So I can imagine like you were talking to her, and then she all of a sudden told you the story, how things are going with this current solution she had, and then how did you build it? Was it really like you two sitting together and then building it, and she was like looking at it and then giving feedback?
I mean, we had to do some tech setup. So we used
Yeah.
Superbase and Vercel, and she created her GitHub account, and I was interviewing her basically. And she was so passionate sharing her requirements. You know, she as the
Yeah.
product owner, this is my product. I can decide what I want to have. And then Codex just built a very nice first version, you know, multimodal with pictures and so on. But then, of course, we defined the different user types and so on. She said, okay, this has to be data. I mean, this has to be secure, fulfilling requirements. We made sure that it does that and so on. So, yeah, it was just very harmonic, I would say. We had tea together. We were having some conversations while it was building.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is like so 2026 that now a barber is also on GitHub. Like it's
She's
not
a
your
SaaS entrepreneur now.
Yeah. She is now a founder of a SaaS company.
Yeah.
It's unimaginable.
It
It
is.
would have been unimaginable a few months ago, or even a few weeks ago. I'm also very stunned with like the latest LLM updates. Also with the ChatGPT 5.4, you can really see like how fast the release cycles are, and you really can see more and more benefits with each cycle. And we already had that last year, so like that the cycles are fast isn't new, but still a lot of value added with each cycle, and I'm just super stunned.
So these days I'm pitching Codex a lot to customers. We are doing a lot of workshops, rolling it out really at scale. Like we are going deep there. And for example, we say 16% of the time of an engineer, of a software engineer, is actually building software. But what about the other 84%? And so adopting it throughout the entire software development lifecycle, this is key. But the companies that figure this out, including this end-to-end feedback loop, they have a 10x advantage. And the way that we at OpenAI are now shipping product, this is super exciting. From as a salesperson, of course, it causes me some sleepless nights, but it's also fun. It's aligned with our culture. It's aligned with the way we work. It's very interesting because we are shipping so much product, and we are helping our customers also to ship so much more product. And I recently had this enablement call with one of my customers, and they are some of the best in the industry in what they do. They are really, really strong product wise. But I just thought, okay, your software engineering approach is still so like August 2025, but it's not yet early 2026 where we speak about agentic delegation, delegating the whole task to the agent. Like my codex is running right now as we speak. Because today I created for the first time this Ralph loop, and it comes from Ralph Wiggum from The Simpsons. So the idea is this guy, he was so relentless, so persistent in what he did. So the Ralph loop, the idea is it just never stops running. So what it does, it goes through all of the pages of Lumina OS and is checking them. And it is a skill, so it's a repeatable behavior. And I told it exactly what it should do. And sometimes it still stopped. So what I just did, I put just continue like 10 times. So whenever it stops, it shoots the next command and it just continues. So it has been building now for, I think, 2 hours. It's going to build for a much longer time because there is a lot of code in Lumina OS.
That's really cool. And I also wrote you that I'm really curious if you will get to this point that you can really consume all the limits inside Codex.
It never happened to me. This is crazy. I never got to the limit of my Codex Pro subscription.
It's super hard. So I'm also trying every day. I'm also like adding more work trees to see if I can get it to that point, but it's really impossible. Yeah. And I'm really happy about that fact that it is impossible.
Yeah. I mean, this is, of course, cool for our customers that we let them build a lot as part of the subscription.
Yeah. No, these are very generous limits, and I can see it from comparisons. And I think a lot of optimizations are probably happening under the hood. One thing we could also see with GPT 5.4 is now this fast mode. So you can be like, hey, I invest more tokens, but then the results comes in faster with the same accuracy. This is also new because before you had like faster speed meant less accuracy. Now it's like same accuracy. So this is amazing. And even when I turn this one on, I still can't get like into burning down the token. So it's really amazing technology under the hood, and also the token efficiency overall of the model. There have been also some updates how it uses tools I saw. So yeah, very impressive and super useful.
Yeah, one thing, if you haven't tried it out yet, is you can activate the experimental mode. You can activate that in the terminal, just /experimental. And then you see a couple of features that are kind of beta, and you can activate them. For example, multi-agent, or there is this very interesting security mode. So when it stops, and it would usually ask you some question to validate something, there is this security agent that checks the quality, and it gives the confidence, and it can just continue. So there are some really nice things. It's worth continuously checking this experimental mode as well. And interestingly, for example, this one is not available yet as a UI feature in the Codex app, but still it is working. You can ask it then, are you able to use the multi-agent feature? And it says yes. It's just not showing it in the screen.
Okay, so that's really awesome. I wasn't aware of it. Thanks for this insight. I'm gonna try it out until the next times.
Try it out.
We'll tell you about my experience with it.
Yes.
Really love it.
Cool. Any other insights from building as we speak about it from the last days and weeks? I mean, you are shipping a lot of product every day.
Yeah, so, and I can also see now this multi-agentic approach, also like in our own products, how it's helping us. So for example, what we're doing is we have now a completely new onboarding experience. And for that, we separated the whole agent. So it's a brand new agent, just focusing on the task of onboarding, and we can really see like multiple benefits from it. So on the one hand, the agent can really have just the tools necessary for the task, but also it has a different way of communication to the end user as it's just limited to a specific task. And this really helps to personalize the onboarding experience. I think this is really cool. And besides that, I'm having more and more automations in my life. So I have now multiple morning briefings. One of them is, for example, inside Codex automations with a Notion MCP. This one goes through our to-do list in a Kanban board, captures all the items of the team, and then lists down unassigned tasks so that we get attention to it, and also helps us with this morning briefing with a continuous prioritization of tasks. So super useful. It feels like an agile coach, just sitting there every morning and waiting.
Okay, that's really cool.
And it's so like I have the feeling with more and more automations, the stress level is going down and down and down. And I'm really having this experience of more and more this flow state that you once described. So this just stick with me. I'm really finding the flow state, and these techniques are really helping a lot to achieve that, because like all types of tasks that were necessary but didn't feel pleasant to do them, you can now push them into these types of automations. And I remember the bookkeeping that you mentioned last time. This is also such a category.
Yeah. I mean, there are so many tasks that are really painful. I think it unlocks a lot of things that we simply couldn't do before. As I told you, we are shipping so much right now in OpenAI. I want to keep my customers informed. So what I did is I just said, Codex, please go through all the Slack channels with product announcements and provide me a ready to copy paste product announcement summary, like a newsletter style, that I just had a look over, and it looked great. So I sent it to my customers. And I mean, this would have cost me a lot of time, and maybe I wouldn't even have been able to do that, but I can delight my customers with it. And obviously they are super interested in it. And so many other workflows that I'm using now on a day-to-day basis that just were not possible before. It's also doing twice a week web research about my customers, getting me the most relevant, the latest news, and posting it in a Slack channel, which gives me that briefing. I also frequently ask it, can you please go through my emails, through my Slack conversations, and see if anything is unanswered, anything important. Yeah, and it reduces the stress, because seriously, I just know that I have things under control. There's this agent just helping me with it.
Yeah, now going the extra mile is even more feasible for more folks, I would say. And now at some point you really have to think about what are the things you want to focus on. I now really try to find these items which are like not urgent, but are very impactful. And this really helps me to really focus more on these types of tasks. And as you said, like in agentic engineering, really focus on what is the value for the customers and really put your time in that space, and you will see the fruits. So even like this thing with ordering groceries from a swimming pool. This is possible due to these types of habits you can build up with the automations around it. And one other thing I finally mastered for myself is emails. I was always like one of these dudes. I had like few folders, and what it did was previously it filtered direct emails to myself where I was a direct recipient or a CC, and then it was like filtering out newsletters and maybe one or two more filters for specific domain names. So if you have partners or customers, but this was very basic and was also very manual. Now what I did is I'm using Notion Mail, and inside Notion Mail I can turn on auto tagging. So just in natural language I describe the type of email that would reflect to a specific tag, and now it does the auto tagging on all the emails, and now it also puts them based on the tagging in the right folder. And now it's so clean. Like I just open it up. I have like the perfect overview what's going on, and I'm very happy. I finally also can tick this one off, and having the time for this is really possible because of the other automations.
Hey man, that's really cool. I think I haven't fully figured out email yet. So yeah, I would be very curious about a deep dive in that. And maybe there is something about this you can share. Well,
Sure.
you basically already did. So
Yeah,
maybe
sure.
try out the feature.
Yeah, just try it out. I mean, we put the links into the descriptions as always. And you can also write us a comment just in LinkedIn under the episode. And then we can also share more insights about our best practices.
Speaking about email and communication, by the way, so I had this challenge that there are lots of LinkedIn messages now, and I've been struggling with this for quite some time. So for example, last Sunday, I answered a lot of them, but then it caused, of course, all of the follow-ups. And these days, seriously, I'm doing a lot. I enjoy it a lot, but sometimes it can be at the compromise of doing a workout, getting enough sleep, calling my grandparents or family, or calling a dear friend that I haven't spoken to for a long time. So it's all about somehow trade-offs. And what I'm actually going to do is, because I also don't just want to ignore those messages, because it does matter for me. I'm just changing the mechanism. That's why I created this page where people can just input their text, they can input a subject, and it's going via email. Actually, email is getting my safe zone again. It feels so controlled, right? There is not the expectations of instantly responding or so. So yeah, I can actually treat those emails and get back to those emails. And while I do want to personally get back to all of those messages, no matter what they're about, also, of course, an AI agent can help me. Hey, what is unanswered? Can you give me some patterns, some common themes? I just feel much more under control. So yeah, this is something I will actually put live next week. Behind me here on the whiteboard, this morning I woke up and I had just this idea how I want to design this page. You can see it in a few days live on LinkedIn.
Wow.
And it's pretty
cool.
It's pretty cool in the back end. It's sending me an email. It has a dashboard. It has an AI agent connected to it. Actually, I'm doing it mostly with Codex to then go through the messages.
So I really love this idea, and I'm curious, Tilman, like, what is your take on now these long-running agents? Some call them 24/7 agents. I remember you started also now already with OpenClaw, and now also this project, and maybe also what you see in conversations with customers. What would you say is the state of long-running agents?
I think there are people in OpenAI that can give you a more precise answer to that. I know that agents are able to run now. Of course, you have to find your use cases for that. But even this morning, my coding agent running for 44 minutes and just delivering the result. That's a pretty long time for me. Or my OpenClaw, it's just running all the time. I can send it it's a her actually. I can send her a message on Telegram. She would respond anytime directly. Every morning she sends me a tech briefing and a briefing about news, what's happening in the world. Now I told her every morning, surprise me in some way. So let's see what comes out of that. Last Sunday, just for fun, I told it to send a message to my family that I posted into the family chat, which was quite funny. But yeah, things like that. It's just delighting me. But I wouldn't say I'm the most advanced now with my OpenClaw's capabilities, but it's just interesting. And because of OpenClaw, I bought this new Mac Mini, and I feel like I got back to desktop computers. This thing is just cool. Now it's sold out, so if you don't have one yet, yeah, you may have to wait a bit. But it's pretty cool, a pretty powerful device, quite affordable, and my OpenClaw is just running there all the time.
Yeah, that's really brilliant. And I didn't want to put you in a corner where you have to dive deeper, but it's really about our personal experience.
And by the way, you can ask me any question. But I just say, if I ask my solutions architect or solutions engineer I work with, or even someone from the product team, and these guys, they are also publishing stuff. There's some really interesting things there. Coming back also to your AI news MCP server that
Yeah.
reveals a lot of these things.
Thank you. This is really kind bringing up this experiment, from last week.
Yes.
So maybe for our audience, at some point I think I was announcing the extra mile MCP server, and you might have thought, okay, this thing never happened, but it actually did. But right now it's like an internal project. So what we are doing is we are using it internally to really learn from our previous podcast, but also prepare the next podcast and also gather news. So it has like multiple capabilities. One of them is now the first 6 episodes are all integrated in it. So you can always get a summary from it. The other one is it can connect to news sources via RSS feeds and then download the latest news. And you can filter for news categories, but you can also define timeframes because sometimes you just want the last 24 hours. This was also an idea from Tilman, and which I really like because now we can really on a day-to-day basis find out what changed, like have just a delta of the things going on. And then at some point I was like, okay, we still plan to make this public, but also for ourselves, how can we use the data now in there? Because now we invested some time to get this capability for the things we do with Extra Mile. And one of them is actually when it comes to posting on LinkedIn. And when you look at LinkedIn nowadays, not only you get more messages directly sent to you, but also, of course, more content is produced inside LinkedIn. And on the one hand, I can fully understand it. And I'm super fine with it if people can express more themselves and have AI as a tool to help them. But I think on the other side, we really need to have a good quality criteria. This is one point. But just from a content creator perspective, if you want to shine on LinkedIn, you need to think about the real estate space that you have. So it's the pixels. And you can maximize the pixels with, for example, images. This really helps you. Or carousel. So it's like a multi-page PDF which you can click through. Now, creating a carousel takes some time. There are different tools like Canva you can use for that and create your carousels and then export it as a PDF. But I was thinking, well, we have the data, we have the information. So we know, for example, the full transcript of our episode. How can we make this a carousel? And then I was experimenting with Codex and then let it create some idea I had based on using JavaScript and then putting it into a right format and then building a PDF exporter. A long story short, we have now this additional capability in the MCP server where it can take the episode and create the carousel for it. For this episode, we will try it out. So you will see the result live coming out from the Extra Mile MCP.
It's funny how we continue to innovate. And also, I think this is one of the missions of the Extra Mile podcast, to encourage you to innovate yourself. And we want to open this room for innovation. And one of the things I was thinking of as you were speaking, I very much admire product managers. I think actually now I have pretty good product management capabilities in some sense. But recently I spoke with a CPO, and it just impressed me. All these possibilities that the team has, how to prioritize what to do first, because all of the options, they look amazing, right? So that was an interesting thought. I think prioritization is getting on the one hand more, at the same time asking yourself the question, all right, how could I find a way to make it all happen, to make it all possible? Because maybe I have those several P0 items. And now it is possible if you just ask yourself the right question and think about it in a certain way. How can I do this thing full time and still consistently deliver this LinkedIn carousel? Well, you just described one way to do that.
Yeah, and this is still hard to grasp, I would say. So we have now the option, we have the possibility. I mean, we said it's almost impossible with normal human behavior to get like the quotas down to zero. If you have the max subscription, for example, with Codex. And now you really have to think about it. Okay, how can I really maximize the value I can create with it? And this is also something you told me a few days ago. It's really about the mindset that you have right now. And I would say for me personally, how I would interpret it is like, what can I imagine? What can we plan as a team? And then how fast are we really willing to make it into a realization step? The time like in between is so short nowadays, and you really don't have to hesitate. And also like, you can just put it out and your customer's going to be so happy about it. And even if you think about risk management and you're worried, hey, What about if there are bugs inside it, if you go so fast? You still can just publish it as a beta for a very limited amount of users and get direct feedback. And I'm so sure that your customer's going to be so happy about it. And we'll see, wow, they are having such a huge innovation, acceleration right now because of the latest technologies. And I think there are just positive effects behind it. And I see a lot of pros and very few, contra points against just going now much faster.
I fully agree. And also, a feature that you develop right now, you may re-architecture this every 2 or 3 months or continuously. So getting it out, getting feedback. And then anyway, it's going to evolve. Now, especially with AI, because we have the capability to continuously modernize things. Like I recently redesigned the architecture of the agent in Lumina OS. And that was a pretty long-running task of Codex, by the way. We iterated, it asked me a couple of questions. We evaluated different approaches of designing it. We built it. Honestly, while we were building it, because now it's working with the responses API, I want this to be an agentic architecture with using the agents SDK. And Puria, we spoke about this a few days ago. So last weekend, I modernized the architecture of the AI coach in Lumina OS. But soon we will have this small workshop where you actually help me design an agentic architecture. And obviously, I could come up with this myself, iterating with AI, but then still getting your expertise, your expert knowledge is going to be so crucial. But this kind of agent design is going to be so fun. And how these agents interact, do the handovers, which model they use, the tool use, of course. I'm very glad about, for example, 5.4 is so strong at tool calling. We are making advancements in our SDK. Even with a high number of tools, it's doing it in a very, very solid way. And then also thinking of speech to speech. There is so much opportunity for the product I'm building, for the product you are building, for the product a lot of people are building right now. Yeah, so Puria, I'm looking forward to that deep dive session, by the way.
Me too. I'm also really pumped for this one. And one more thing I would say is like a comment on the responses API. Just also huge shout outs here, because what I see is like a lot of capabilities are included in there just out of the box. So it really reduces the complexity for you. I saw the part with the tool calls. This is so brilliant. So it really reduces the tokens used for tool. There was also some debates nowadays about MCP, and Perplexity is now reducing the usage internally of MCP as a protocol because of heavy token usage. Now, things get much easier with, for example, solutions like Responses API. I think this is really cool for like a lot of people. And the other thing I wanted to say, be prepared also for some AgentCore content for the workshop.
Yeah, cool. So I'm still figuring out if I want to deploy this again to AgentCore or if I want to deploy it on the Lambda. But we'll figure this out. And,
let's see which one fits.
And we will share the pattern that we chose and why.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Nice. So Puria, I want to ask you something. This is a question I like to ask myself every Sunday in my reflection. What were kind of the 5 coolest things that happened to you last week?
Yeah, I would say, first off, one person who remembers me of you is James Cameron, because he also like pushes his environment like into such new heights and areas. And like, look, like James Cameron, how did I get into this topic at all? I was watching Avatar again, so Avatar 2, and for the ones of you who have seen it, there are a lot of scenes inside water. And this is an animated movie, and you might have thought, well, they use a lot of computer to create this motion graphics, but actually they used a lot of real physical setup to create this human motion of being inside water. And the first thing I really saw in James Cameron is he is so brave. So he has such a high state he's continuously in, and he's like not scared at all. And he has like sometimes these ideas where normal people would think, man, I think this is impossible to do. He was thinking about, okay, how can I create this movie where people are being just filmed with dots painted inside their faces and some suits where you have these white dots. I mean, this is like how you create these animation movies. But now he wanted these people to be recorded and have the movement like they're in water. And this is not an easy problem to solve. So the first experiments they had, they put people into the air and let them float and then like, play that they would be inside water. And this just looked so awful and not right when they put it into an animation movie. So he wasn't scared at all. He experimented at many times. And what I found so cool is he motivates his team in such a natural way. He keeps their state high. He really helps them to see the potential. And whenever they get stuck, he just gets the best coaches they can for a specific topic.
Nice.
And I found that's such a beautiful making of documentary, and I learned so many things, and just this drive for experimentation. And there was this one story. So at some point they realized, okay, people need to be inside water. Otherwise we won't have this physical motion. So one part was creating the studio, which was a miracle of its own to create it and find a way to have underwater cameras. This is also super complex because it can be very dark underwater and a lot of details I won't go deeper into. But what was really fascinating there was that actually one part is how do you technically film it, but the other part was actually how do the actors stay underwater for a long period. And they had to dive for a reasonable amount of meters. So it wasn't just like being a little bit underwater. They had to swim. Then they had like some machines where they had to be mounted upon and then be moved very fast because in the movie it looked like they're riding on animals and so on. So for that you needed actually professional divers, but professional divers aren't actors. So what he did is he took the professional divers, made them to coaches for the actors and helped the actors to become better divers. And like without any, pressure, this was a brilliant part behind it. And I was so fascinated and inspired by him. So amazing movie creator and an amazing leader, I would say.
That's a beautiful story with so many takeaways and so many new nuances when I watch the movie next time.
Yeah, same for me. When I watched it, I was like, oh man, there was so much work behind the scene.
And I think one thing we spoke about in the last episode is, or one of the last episodes is, if we understand how animals communicate with one another, I think there are so many opportunities how AI can actually bring us closer to the nature, which is just a beautiful thing. But Puria, that was just one. So I asked you for 5 cool things that happened last week.
Yeah, I will get to them. Maybe one small comment to what you just said, because this also connects so well with the Avatar movies, because they really inspire us to get reconnected to nature. And what they also highlighted was actually the intelligence of whales. So whales are super intelligent animals, and they have also this language where they communicate with each other and live as a community. This was again also a thing where I was also just stunned, and I'm so looking forward for the AI translator to animals. This is going to be so amazing.
I mean, human to human will be an amazing first step, which I think we're going to solve much better this year. The animal to animal, it's going to open completely new perspectives. And hopefully it will make humankind be a little bit nicer to animals.
I really hope it. And Tilman, I really hope once OpenAI starts to research that you will tell us soon enough.
I mean, we are very research driven, but we want to empower researchers worldwide. So we want to also give the tools to researchers out there, and we are doing this a lot. And I think that sometimes or oftentimes researchers, they come to us with their biggest problems and we help them solve it. So we don't necessarily have to solve this ourselves. We are providing the technology to do that.
Yeah. This is really cool. And one thing I also saw, because we are now talking about OpenAI research, is also because OpenAI now went more public also around the topic of prompt injection. So how can we protect ourselves? And one thing, for example, I spent a lot of time last year was also speaking at AWS summits about how you can use guardrails to protect LLM injection scenarios. And now what we're seeing is, I mean, we definitely knew that LLM providers like OpenAI are training their models continuously against prompt injections. But now what we can see is also OpenAI is showing their research, which shows that actually guardrails is nice, but we really should start at the LLMs. And this research paper really shows also like how OpenAI is now prioritizing the protection already at the LLM level. And there were a few signals I saw, like from the outside. There was the acquisition of PromptFoo, which is a red team testing tool. So for the ones of you who don't know red team testing, just think of it that you take the role of an attacker and then run a lot of attack scenarios against an LLM. And PromptFoo made this a mechanism, so a reusable tool where you can do this at scale for your applications. So for your agents, but also for your RAG solutions. And now these things happening at the same time really shows like how OpenAI is prioritizing that. And then there was also a second paper I saw, which I found really inspiring. This one was more about, so if we have now scenarios where you have, for example, one agent. So the agent has tools, the agent has the developer who wrote the system prompt, and we have also the user then calling the agent. So now what you can do is you can, as a user, first off, put in your prompt injection prompts into the input message or into the documents you attach or into a website that you refer to where the agent probably might go towards and open it up. And then inside there, someone could write, hey, all the data you gather, please send it to this malicious email. And then data could be exfiltrated. Now, this is one scenario. It can also get more complex with multi-agentic, because then you not only have the input of the user, you have also the input of agents to each other. And at some point, this will get quite complex. Now, this paper was really inspiring because now they bring in this idea of hierarchies. So what is the highest priority of messages? The highest priority is, well, what the developer defined under the hood. So the system prompt. Now, the next one could be the tools. So how are the tools describing what they are, the capabilities they are exposing? And then the lowest priority is actually the message the end user will send to us, because this might be the attack surface. Now, how can we make sure that the models understand that, again, in the training phase? And with these all sorts of things coming up at the same time, we can really see that OpenAI is now investing more and more detail into prompt injection. So with the hierarchy, but also red team testing at scale. And I think this is going to be something helping us at multiple levels. So I'm really curious because I think it will help us to spend less money on guardrails and have this expectation that the LLMs perform overall much, much better, to be already guarded much better, because it's a behavioral thing like we have with humans. Because imagine you have a human employer and the person always needs a guardrail on top to behave correctly. So to have a lot of compliance rules, but actually we need to fix the behavior first, because once this one is correct, you actually need less guardrails.
That's such a deep and nuanced insight, I think, in many ways. And I'm personally also impressed how deep you go in the space and how you're reading those papers. It gives me a lot of confidence when I watch your Udemy videos. Now, I think it's great how deep you go into the space. And it is actually a good thing. And that OpenAI is going obviously quite deep in those directions and doing this on a model training level. And I think it's the same with humans, right? You don't want to continuously give guardrails to a human. You would rather want to change their behavior, make sure they prioritize the right things. So it's an interesting insight.
Yeah, thank you, Tilman. And I also saw something now finally being GA, which is AgentCore Policy. And for the ones of you who haven't heard about it, so AgentCore is like the overall agentic managed service, which you can use to deploy your agents on AWS. And Policy focuses on how you actually define permission sets for tools that the agent calls. So these might be APIs, this might be MCP servers. And with Policy, you just write down the rules as natural language. And then what it does is it converts it into a structured format. So the format used here is called Cedar. You can have a look. We will also attach the link. It's an open source policy structure. And this one really helps you at scale to have a permission management for the tools that the agent can call. And you can specify it to specific end users or user groups. And with that, you can increase the amount of tools without the risk of having wrong permission sets, so that the agent opens up a folder of someone which shouldn't be opened up and again, lead to data exfiltration scenarios. So I think this is amazing. So it's now GA. So definitely make sure to check it out. And there's one more point I also saw. This one goes into the area of how we can actually discover content. So a few years ago, we had the hype around Resch, where we had unstructured text documents and PDFs and started to convert them into vector embeddings. And now, especially this year, it will become a common pattern that we have images and videos as well converted into a vector space. And AWS did a, you can say, experiment here. So what they did is they took roughly 1 million videos and converted them into embeddings. And with that, you can now discover these videos and search through them, not only through keywords. So you don't need to hit the right title of the video, but you can describe something semantically that might happen inside the video. So take our podcast. Maybe at some part you walk to the whiteboard and do something, right? And maybe you can't hear it from what we're talking about, but in the semantic information inside the video. So you stood up and went to the whiteboard. And these types of things we can find out. And then I was super surprised, like around 1 million videos. And how fast is the search speed? 3 seconds. I mean, this is crazy.
Wow.
This is so crazy that we can do that easy nowadays. The cost behind it is, at that scale, around $27,000 to convert the embeddings. But from there on, it's quite cheap because the search is not very expensive in a vector space. The use cases we can build with it is so manifold. And also, like, if you would have watched all videos in a row, it would have been more than 1 year.
It is super cool. I think the use cases that it unlocks, I also think of my own library of images and videos. And in the future, if I want to think back of some beautiful moment that happened in the past, this will be, I think this can create some beautiful moments. And of course, there are so many business use cases as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And for example, if you want to, find a video from a past event and you just remember what happened there, where you don't know the year, you don't know even the place, you just describe the emotion, and emotions are also semantic information, and then it can connect it and then give you back the moment.
It's beautiful. All right. So it's cool how things are continuously evolving in that space. I'm also so glad about the collaboration now between OpenAI and AWS. The much larger collaboration. It is something that was announced in the last weeks as well. So I'm personally very excited about this one.
Yeah, +1 on that, definitely. I think this is a huge announcement. And yeah, also I think for Bedrock, this will mean a lot of good things and give people even more model flexibilities. But maybe enough from my side. I think these were like the coolest updates I saw recently. How about you, Tilman?
So what I would love to share is a little bit about, in the personal development space, a few nuances that I observed in the last couple of days. So I give you first 2 anecdotes, and then I come to even deeper insights that I had. So the first anecdote is, I had this flight booking for next week, and I had to book it relatively on a short notice. So I was, I still have this frugality principle from AWS. I don't want to spend too much money on the flight, even if it's within the policy. But this one flight going back that I had to take, it was just so expensive. So I just didn't want to accept the situation to take a different flight, and then I couldn't make certain things that are important for me. So I continued to search for 2 hours, and ultimately I booked a specific flight where I could have another flight at the end, and the price was just half. So what this just taught me, yes, I was lucky, but persistency and believing into something, it pays off. I mean, I could have just stopped somewhere along the way, but I had the certainty there must be a way. And there was a way. So that is one anecdote. Another anecdote is, so from all of those LinkedIn messages, I had this call with somebody I met at Tech Week, and it was a super interesting conversation we had. But I had the conversation while I was in transit, going to the dentist, and I missed the stop to get out of the transport. But this was the only time slot yesterday in a super, super, super packed day. So what the consequence was that I came 20 minutes late to my dentist appointment. But I didn't have my card, so I have to call the insurance. I didn't figure this out because I was busy speaking with this guy. The appointment got delayed. On my way back, there was an emergency incident on the track, so I had to take an Uber. I arrived 1.5 hours later back in the office as I wanted to. So of course I was working along the way, pretty much everywhere if you see me. But the consequences of this, the consequences of a small thing when I did not focus. What I do want to say is, it's good that we had this conversation. I really had a good conversation with this person. But this transit time, it can be a time of meditation, of anticipating something, of thinking, of reflecting. And so really being more conscious about that was a key insight of me. And I think the universe taught me this lesson because of all the things that happened that evolved out of this. So these were 2 stories. Now going a bit deeper. So I'm listening to this tape of influence and persuasion from Tony Robbins. So it's basically about sales. So a few years ago, when I listened to this for the first time, I was all the time waiting for this process. Okay, give me some objection handling best practices. Okay, give me the 7 steps of a sales process. But this guy, he speaks about state, knowing your why. He speaks about that all the time. And I know that two years ago or so, a few years ago, I wasn't so ready for that. I was still looking for these descriptions. But now I realize, and this is also feedback I get from my customers, it is so much about state, showing up in a certain way. Of course, it's about a sincere willingness to help, going the extra mile. Speaking about it.
Yes, the extra mile.
But it's also about knowing your why, because the other person feels that, sees that. So I feel so inspired when I listen to this, and I think I'm listening to this for the 3rd time. And while I oftentimes listen to tech podcasts or to audiobooks, repeatedly listening to those, I would say, fundamentals, it's just key. It's the same when I listen to my affirmations or my goals. I have them spoken and I listen to them in Lumina OS. I continuously listen to it, and it connects me with my goals every single time. So, and speaking about that, I think these are all input factors for my goals. I have these goals that I want to achieve. What about the input? What do I put in? So in Lumina OS, to raise this awareness, I now also created matrix features. So every second that I listen to my goals, it is counted, it is measured. And this is so helpful. By the way, also every push-up I make, I think I'm now at around 46,000 this year. So
nice.
it is pretty cool. It is a pretty cool thing. Wait, is it 46,000? It's 100 days probably times 46.
146. Then it's 4,600. Yeah.
Right. So it is actually 4,600. It is 46 times 100, and sometimes I do more. Yeah, I think measuring and being aware of your input, it is super, super crucial. And to go back to this tape about sales, but it's basically about how to show up in life, knowing your why and being in a good state. Now, another theme I want to speak about is, let me pause here, Puria. Is there any comment, anything you want to say or share?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to interrupt your flow. I think you're like into really a good state right now, describing it. I would say like maybe a few things. What I really found also inspiring. So first off with frugality. Also like when the first time I got in touch with frugality, I didn't really dig into it because my financial habits in the past weren't the best. Even like being a student, I always I had this habit of ending up with zero end of the month. So I was living my life and enjoying from day to day. And this was a cool lesson at AWS, I would say as well. Like just, understanding the benefit and value behind frugality. It's just like also a different way of valuing things or valuing activities. And even with traveling plans, even if you have the chance, you can't even find an efficient solution to it, right? And just trusting this idea. And I think it's a good behavior that adds up very well if many people do it in an organization. And yeah, it was for me really counterintuitive. And after a time, I also developed the trust into it. Yeah, I would also say there are still times where I'm like, yeah, I don't care. I just gonna spend it. But overall, I think it's a very reasonable way of handling these types of decisions.
Yeah. And it's also about being frugal about someone else's time. This is also so important.
Yeah, true.
Also being, in a way, frugal with my own time, respecting my own resources that I have.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we have 24 hours. 8 of them we might want to invest for sleeping, or at least 6 to 7. And yeah.
By the way, this is such a good now transition to the next topic I want to speak about. It is actually ideal.
Let's go.
Because it is, yes, let's go. It is about how to manage your time. It is about how to manage your time. And this is one of the things I speak about also in the workshops I sometimes offer and provide. And the first thing I want to say is discernment in the moment of choice. So there are these moments of choice where you could, maybe someone else is triggering you from the outside, asking you to do something. Or from the inside, maybe you gave your body the habit of getting sugar or chocolate or something regularly. So you get these triggers, and what do you do? How do you decide? And the key is in this moment of choice to take a breath, pause, clarify, and then respond. Instead of just following the first instinct, and hopefully this is a good instinct, and you can teach yourself to get this positive instinct, but really pausing, clarifying, and responding in this moment of choice. This is key, and this is a key to get really your big rock focus. So to focus on the most important things, on the things that are not urgent but important. So you want to assess first of all how things are. Then you want to decide, take the decision, and then you want to act. And how to act, this is where it comes a lot to strategy, of course, and habits. Because especially in our times when there is so much input continuously, it is super beneficial to have like this safe space of some habits that just continuously bring success. For example, a good sales habit could be, found out something, but it's fine. For example, a good sales habit could be to send a newsletter with really relevant information to your customers once per month, or to reach out to some customers frequently. Just having those habits to do that, to block yourself continuously time, to have your pipeline under control. And you can have this in all areas of life, making workout non-negotiables, getting the habit of giving your all, giving 150%, 200% in the workout. Like I, by the way, did this morning when I was in the bootcamp baby. This is a cool place here around the corner.
Oh, nice.
But giving it your all. This is a way how you execute. So now we spoke about things that are important and not urgent. So you've probably seen this time matrix, as Stephen Covey calls it, or the Eisenhower matrix. It's another name for it. So there is this area of fulfillment with all those things that we just spoke about. And this could be proactive work, working on your high impact goals, creative thinking, planning something, making a good plan, spending quality time with some people you love, meditating, any kind of recreation activity, relationship building. So these are all the things that lead you to fulfillment in different ways. So that's the Q2 quadrant. And as Stephen Covey used to say, you want to create this Q2 culture around you. You want to be a role model that acts in this certain way, but this will inspire the people around you as well. And then there is this other quadrant of demand, which are things that are important, but also urgent. So you realize that when something is urgent, well, yes, with a deadline, personally, I'm pretty good at delivering something, but ultimately it's not the most sustainable behavior. Ultimately, there might be pressure, there might be a lack of sleep. So we typically want to move more things from this quadrant of urgency to the quadrant of non-urgency of things that are important. And what you find here are any kind of crisis, emergency meetings, unforeseen problems, and how you can avoid that is obviously through anticipation and planning. So these things we spoke about, they are all important. And you can ask yourself the question, I'm thinking back of the last days or of last week, how did I really spend my time? How much time did I actually spend with this in this area of fulfillment? And then we now can look at the lower areas of things that are not important. And looking at things that are not important and not urgent. Let's start. So looking at the lower area now and starting with things that are not important and urgent. So this is a place where obviously you are kind of wasting time in a way, because it might be some unnecessary report. It's not important, but someone tells you it has to happen as soon as possible, so you stress yourself, but it's not even important. Or it's a phone call. It comes in urgently, right? Do you pick up or do you not pick up? You were focusing on something. If you pick up the phone, you may get completely out of your focus. So these things we typically want to kind of delegate, give them away, or just avoid them if they are not necessary, or automate them if they are necessary for someone else. And ultimately now, and I know this is a lot of theory, but I think this is so important. And now before I tell you about the fourth quadrant, when I listened to this for the first time a few years ago, this was like theory for me, okay? These were some interesting concepts, but I took the decision that I really want to live by those principles. And Puria, you spoke about this earlier as well. I'm asking myself continuously, is this a high impact activity? A Q2 activity. And now I would say it's even hard for me to do things that are not in this area. And oftentimes I think administrative things are not in that area. But ultimately, a lot of administrative things, they are actually, because if I don't do them, I get into crisis. But I can still ask myself, how can I automate this? And this is where AI plays a key role. So now speaking about this fourth area of distraction. This is any kind of trivial work. This is scrolling through social media feeds. This is watching hours of movies or series on Netflix or some other gossiping. I would say in general, speaking bad about other people. I think it's actually never good to speak negative about other people. It doesn't align with my values, and it's just lowering the energy so much. So yeah, I think it's just key to be understanding about other people and to treat people well. Yeah, so these are some things in this Q4 quadrant which you honestly want to completely delete. So that's the time matrix.
I just want to comment on the last one. I think many people are stuck in the last quadrant nowadays, right? Mm-hmm. And especially with the next generation growing up, we have now some countries also regulating that. I think it was Australia as one of the first ones to also ban social media for certain ages. I think under 14, they banned the consumption of it. And I think this is something we really need a lot of awareness. And I was also sharing like one struggle I had as in Iran. There's a lot of issues going on. And I fell into a habit that I wanted to know everything going on. So like, being really close to understand what's going on, feel connected with my relatives, and then having the hope, like, if I know the latest things, I will be one of the first ones knowing the regime, for example, collapsed. But at some point, I really realized I also tapped into this Q4 quadrant. And it's something which really destroys many things. But one of the things it really destroys is your state. And we can be protective with our state and find clever ways to solve it. I mean, one way is abundance. Other ways are, for example, what worked for me is to use AI and really not look at newspaper articles anymore. Just use AI 1 or 2 minutes per day. Ask it, hey, what happened concisely? And then that's fine. I know what's going on, so I'm not fully disconnected. Because I found out being fully disconnected felt artificial to me, because still I have like, you know, my relatives there, and kind of I don't want like to forget everything around me, but I also don't want to be in this loophole of feeling also bad because of that. And yeah, I think there are different ways where we have to be also flexible to overcome that on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, you have to see what is in your cycle of influence. And if there is something you are just unable to influence, then it doesn't make sense to focus on it too much. You can ask yourself the question, what is something I can do to improve the situation? And for sure there are things, but really constantly focusing on something you cannot influence right now, then rather focus on where you can really have an impact. And I mean, you personally, and now a lot of people, I don't want to say they depend on you, but you are changing their lives in the courses that you offer them through Udemy. They are very affordable. They don't cost a few €100. They cost, I don't know, $15. Anyone can afford those courses. And seriously, if you learn through Puria, if somebody learns through your courses, they can really differentiate learning those skills. I see that when I speak with my customers. They are building different kinds of agents. These agent systems, they are super complex. And the patterns, they change every few months. And there are competitors working on this. So they want to be always building very good agentic systems. And people who are good at that, they have an edge. And I would say now anyone with access to a computer and with access to those videos, they can benefit from that. They can learn it and they can apply those skills and capabilities. So this is an important mission that you are on, because these people have families, right? These people have friends that they would motivate. So yeah, keep your state up. This is key. And now I'm speaking a little bit about mission and purpose. And this is usually something I speak about before I speak about time management. So let me just commit that in the next one-on-one episode, I will speak about mission and purpose. Because I remember a few years back, I asked my coach this exact question. How do I find my purpose in life? How do I find my mission? And the first thing he says, mission and purpose is not something you find, it's something you create. It's something you create continuously each single day. But of course, the answer is more nuanced to that. So let's leave this to one of the next episodes. I want to say one more thing about taking action, actually. Once you decided what you want to do, how to take action, it's taking decisions. It's so important. And I think I'm kind of self-reflected. So I oftentimes recently I thought, maybe I want to take decisions faster. Maybe I'm shying away from some decisions. So deciding I want to focus on this more, but then also taking action. After taking a decision, always take action and make this a habit to take action. But then also observe and be open that the behavior that you chose, the decision that you took, it might not be the best one, right? Hopefully it's getting better and better with experience, but it might not be the best one. And this is okay. And then don't be hard on yourself. Observing means, like an experiment. It could have been the best decision and you executed it super well. Or it could have been that it's maybe a new thing that you tried out and you don't have so much experience in it yet. So yeah, there might be something you want to improve about this. But now I think not a smart decision is if you now just push yourself and have these regretful thoughts all the time. But no, thinking proactively. All right, what is something I can learn from this? And then adapt. So step number 4 is adapt. And then you go into the next cycle, because then you take a better decision. You take action again. You observe and you want to adapt. And this is a cycle of continuous improvement.
And one metaphor that comes into my mind is also like with food menus when you're at the restaurant. Having this, fast decision there, just pick a dish. And even if it's a new dish, then you will have this observation afterwards. So you will discover either you like it or not. But through that, you learn and you adapt. And I think we can, apply that to even more complex things in life. But just start also with the easy decisions and try to make them as fast as possible and learn from it.
Yeah, because it's a muscle you build, right? It also becomes a habit. And speaking about habits. So what is a habit actually? How would you describe it, Puria?
I'm very bad in definitions, but I will
Putting
give
you
my
on the
very
spot.
best. Put me on the spot, yeah. So, I mean, what about if you can say it's actions that you take that are repeating, so repeatable actions?
Yeah, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. I think I would add an additional angle to it. So it's a behavior or a routine or an action that is repeated regularly and tends to happen subconsciously. So you don't have to think about it consciously. It just triggers, it just happens. It's almost like breathing. It's almost like all the organs in your body operating. You don't even have to think of it. It's just so natural. It's just so natural to me to do my 100 push-ups in the morning. Although I don't know how good of an example it is, because still every time I have to push against resistance. But what does it mean if I push against resistance first thing in the morning? Seriously, there's lots of resistance that may come during the day. Would you agree? So
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm building the habit to push against resistance because this is how to progress. Like I'm swimming in the water. To move forward, I have to push against this resistance still in a playful way, because I don't want, when I'm swimming in the water, with every move I make, oh no, this is so hard, this is so hard. No, do it in a playful way, because this resistance is a very natural thing. But through habits, speaking about that, you can really reduce that resistance to a minimum because it's happening subconsciously. And this makes it really a mental shortcut where you need minimum conscious effort to get this done. Now, combine this with a good state, so put yourself in a good state, have those right habits, and then life just becomes a dance. And now I'm speaking in a very philosophical or metaphorical way, but life can be so light, it can feel so light. If we just manage our state, make it that doing the right things, you can do it with ease. Right? You can do it with ease, and this comes a lot through habits.
Also, one thing I read recently, I'm not sure if we mentioned this already here in the podcast, but there are measurements like how fast you learn if you have fun while learning. So I think the factor was 2 digits, and I think it was around 40x. So if you have fun while learning, you learn 40 times faster.
Wow.
And I think state is close to this, having fun. I mean, if your state is really bad and awful, then also learning or doing anything is going to be very inefficient, and it's going to feel miserable.
That's right. And I feel like there's one more thing I want to say, because we spoke about deadlines as well. To me, it can be actually very beneficial if I put myself deadlines, which is maybe an artificial way to make a high value activity time critical. I remember on Thursday, I was doing this presentation together with a partner in front of some C-levels that were visiting us. How am I using Codex inside of OpenAI on a day-to-day basis? And I had all those techniques, all of those things, but I didn't really have a demo environment prepared. So I was sitting on this until late night on Wednesday.
Yeah.
What I did is actually, I built some pieces of software and I said, okay, create a demo mode. So replace those customer names with just the top 30 customers in Germany, or in my action list, create this demo mode with some random actions. So I get creative. I also just built some kind of mobile application and I demonstrated a lot of skills. But what I want to say is, I put myself this artificial deadline, and this made me deliver this. And now I would say I have a pretty good set of demos that I can show in any kind of occasion. But it was because of that.
I have few thoughts
and it was
on
still
this
fun.
one. Yeah, here's the thing, right? So how do you manage to make it fun and not to be nervous, right? Because sometimes when you have these, you could say, very ambitious deadlines or very short-term deadlines, you can also turn to be very nervous or anxious and be like, oh no, how can I achieve it? It's going to be a catastrophic end result. So how do you tackle it so that it turns to be a joyful experience and maybe, as you said, something even helping you to strive to have much better results?
Yeah, and I think certainty is a good ingredient, because if I have the certainty that I'm going to deliver something good, but also knowing that it doesn't have to be perfect, also knowing that state is so important. So if there is state and great content, it's of course the best. But if there is only state and some medium level content, these people on the other side, they are very intelligent. So maybe that's exactly what they need in this moment, this person in the front who inspires them in some way. And even then, it's a value added, right? Also kind of trusting that however it is going to happen, it's just going to happen in the right way. While, of course, having a very high standard to what you deliver, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I really love this perspective. And I saw this like in you very early in one of our first projects, and at the beginning I was also very anxious, and I was like, oh boy, because I had always this high quality bar for myself for everything I do, and at some point I was like, no, I need like, I don't know, maybe twice the time or 3 times the time period. And I really learned like to have this certainty, as you said, just trust, you could say trust the process, or trust just the time you're spending and the things that you're building. Today, I would say I'm also much more relaxed on this. I have also like other ways of defining timeframes for myself, and I would say they have become much shorter than they used to have to be maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
I mean, depending on the lifestyle. For example, last Monday, I had this AI community meetup in Munich. And now maybe some people would say, okay, Tilman, why are you doing this? What benefit does it bring you? Because it is logistical effort, actually, but it's just a thing, kind of a mission thing. I really enjoy doing that. And all of those, I think 22 people who were in the room on Monday, so it was a smaller meetup, it was our core community meetup. All of those 22 people, they know what I'm speaking about. Everybody was inspired in some way. And I didn't have a lot of time to prepare this. And honestly, this was in between meetings with OpenAI. And I met an ex-colleague of AWS after that. It was insane. But I didn't prepare so much for it. But it just worked perfectly fine. I integrated the audience. Because you could even start rejecting a lot of opportunities because you say, I want to prepare. But if someone would spend all the time preparing, they just wouldn't move forward, and they would take this opportunity. Like, think of those 21 people on Monday, well, including myself, because I grew on that evening so much, also through the things that the people shared. I would have taken this opportunity away from those people. So yeah, being mindful of that as well. And by the way, speaking about community now, we have our AI community meetup here in Munich on the 20th with our partner Codecentric, and this is going to be super amazing because they have a super nice office space. We will speak about AI use cases in organizations. We will speak about some of the trends that we from OpenAI see this year, and we will do a Codex workshop. So we encourage everybody to bring their laptops. We even provide some tech access for free to the people so that they can just build and implement the ideas that they have. So we are going to be like 110 people. I'm really looking forward to that. So you can register via Luma or Meetup. And we are also planning our next bigger tech sales community event. This will be with the local company Tacto in early April. This is to be announced very, very shortly. And
super cool.
We are going to do more AI community meetups this year.
That's so amazing. So everyone from Munich, you heard it, next Thursday. And we're going to make sure this episode comes out super fast so that enough people can hear about it also via the podcast.
I hope by then still spots will be available. So let's ship this podcast pretty fast.
So today is Saturday.
Yeah.
You cannot measure how fast we were afterwards.
Okay, this is going to hold us accountable.
Yes, and we're going to go the extra mile.
So speaking about accountability, I think there was one pretty cool thing we discussed earlier in our prologue.
Yes, can you help me with that?
Yeah, I don't know if I really want to bring this up, but I used to do that in my preparation for my marathon. And recently I felt like I want to do this again, because this is a nice extra mile. So maybe you've been to these high intensity workouts or spinning trainings. I just want to do 2 of those trainings, one after another, giving my 150%. Going this extra mile.
Please go that extra mile, because I'm going now also to start to run every week at least 10 kilometers. So I'm going to, of course, increase it. And so hold me accountable on this one. Nice. So Tilman, first off, you're close to the end of the week. I really wish you a great trip. So are you going to the States, or you want to share where you're heading to?
I'm going to the States. Yeah. I'm meeting a customer. I'm also going to attend like an internal event where we're going to build a lot. So it's going to be interesting and fun.
Super cool. So have a good trip there and enjoy the time. And I hope it's going to be super productive. And maybe if you want to share any final thoughts before wrapping up this week.
I really enjoyed the episode with you, Puria. Today we had planned a special guest who's a friend and also a CTO of a pretty successful and cool software company based here in Germany. With what they do, they are reaching a lot of people and they are making a lot of impact. So this episode we're going to record next time. And we were just saying, all right, Puria, let's keep the momentum. Let's just record the episode, the two of us. And I'm really glad we did it. So this is what I want to say is that probably everything is happening for a reason and a purpose. And I hope we created some kind of insights and magic in this room and some interesting insights for the audience. And I'm still looking so much forward to the next one with this CTO. His name is Felipe. That much we can already spoiler. Puria, any final insights you want to share? Any cool things you're going to do in the next days? Anything you want to share with the audience now at the end?
Yeah, first off, thank you so much, Tilman. I also enjoyed it. It's always such a well-spent time. And I'm also very happy we decided to do this episode today. And yeah, also shout outs to Felipe. And we're super excited for the next episode and really looking forward to it. And yeah, I would say one thing I'm going to definitely try out more in the next days is UI automation. And I hope I can tell you more about it now, maybe then probably in 2 weeks, or maybe we do an episode earlier. Yeah, then I'm going to unveil a little bit more.
Cool. Super excited about that. And I just saw, because Codex is running here on the other screen. It stopped running a few minutes ago, so I gotta get back to this. One more thing, Puria. One more thing I want to share. We do not want to encourage you to just use tokens for the purpose of spending tokens. So use it for something impactful and purposeful to realize your biggest dreams and ideas and something that actually has meaning. But if you have those ideas and things you want to work on, and I'm sure you have them, then it's of course a great thing if you're not limited by some token amount where you run into a limit. So these are my last words for today. And now go build.
Yeah, go build and join us when it's about the extra
mile. So join us next time when it's about the extra mile. Thank you so much for listening. I wish you an amazing day, whatever you do today, wherever you are, and we hear you next time.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. See you next time.
Bye.
Goodbye.